This is Objective 5.5, which is Perform Device Maintenance. The subsections are Cisco iOS upgrades and recovery, password recovery and configuration register, and then file system management. So we have talked a little bit about iOS licensing and upgrades with the newer systems, but it's not always going to be the case that you're going to be able to get the license upgrade and install it and say, okay, done, now then give me the new features of this combined iOS. We may have to upgrade what was shipped, which is to, in this case, go get an iOS, download the image to a TFTP server, upload the image to the device, and then tell it that it is the boot iOS of that device. So here the bullets router ship with system images installed. Each image contains the Cisco iOS software. After some time you may need to load a different image or want to load a different image, want different features on them. You may want to upgrade your iOS to the latest release. And each system image contains different sets of Cisco iOS features. We'll need to select an appropriate image. What I would like to do here is to let's see, let's go to the next one. The steps: select the image, download it, identify the file system, prepare for the upgrade, verify the TFTP server, IP connectivity, copy the iOS image to the router or switch. In our case, we're going to do the switch. I'm going to use Packet Tracer, and the routers don't have enough memory to load the upgraded iOSs, and it doesn't support the erase flash command. So we will do a switch, same process for a switch or a router. And verify the register, verify the boot variable, save the configuration, verify the upgrade. Bring over my Packet Tracer, which we have here, and I'm going to go through the configuration here. How do we establish connectivity? If I look into it in the services TFTP, I have a whole bunch of different iOSs available to me. We're going to, this is the SE4, 2960, this one down here, SE4.bin. What we will do is copy it with a Control-C. And then because we don't make typos typing this in. If we do it wrong, it's not going to work. So how are we going to communicate? This is one of the times that a switch actually needs an IP address. A switch needs an IP address when we want to manage it remotely, or we want to do something like an iOS upgrade to it. So we'll do interface VLAN, not BLAN, but VLAN 1, and then we'll do an IP address of 192.168.1.2.255.255.255.0, and then no shut. The next thing we need to do is, can we ping our TFTP server, which is 192.168.1.3, I hope. So we're trying here, and we have the first dot doing the ARP lookup, and then 3 exclamation points, which is a good thing. So what we're going to do here, let's do a DIR, and you can see that we have C2960 LAN base MZ122.-25.fx bin. So we have that. We have a config.txt. We have a config file by doing the DIR. So what we're going to do is to copy from the TFTP server to flash, the flash memory, because you can see here when we did a DIR, this is flash colon. When we do that, the address or name of the remote host, which is 192.168.1.3, the source file name. The reason I copied that is so we can now go in here and paste, and we don't have to worry about typing all that in, case sensitive, without making a typo. And then when we're going to name it, we'll name it the same thing. Really quickly here, may or may not be this quick, this one's not very big. Exclamation points are good, dots are bad. If we do here now, do a DIR, we see that we have both of these configured in the memory. I copied the wrong one, didn't I? But same here. So we had the FX25, right? And we did the land base 192, 2960, land base 150. Oh yeah, we got it here. It just went to the second line. So we have the new iOS. Good. Now what we want to do is to tell it to use that iOS to boot. Shift-6 to break it. Got to spell it right. Config T, and then we're going to do boot, and then here's system, and then flash, and then colon, and then we're going to put paste our file name in here again. Okay, so a space there. Now we should be able to do a reload, and we'll save the configuration, and then we will reload, and we're reloading Flash, the new iOS that we just installed. So that's the process to upgrade the iOS manually using download in the TFTP server. So it is loading the new one. So what we're going to do is to go on next to a configuration register. What we're going to do is lie to our system. We're going to do a password recovery. Somebody changed the password, locked you out, whatever else. A number of things can happen. We used to have classes where the labs in the book called for you to use your name for the password, and you didn't know whoever used the router last. So we didn't know what name they used, whether they used uppercase, lowercase, whatever else. So we would have to occasionally go in and reset the passwords on the devices, routers, and switches. It can be used to change the router behavior in ways such as how the router boots into ROM-MON, NetBoot. Options while booting, ignore the configuration file, which is what we're going to do, disable boot messages, console speed, baud rate, all sorts of things. And you can see down here the configuration register addresses or numbers, and 0x tells us there's going to be a hexadecimal number. So 2102 is load the iOS from Flash and the configuration file from NVRAM from the startup config file, which is where the password that we don't know is going to be stored. 2100 loaded into ROM-MON mode. ROM-MON is when we have an iOS failure. You may get ROM-MON, and the recover from an iOS failure, corrupted iOS. The best thing I can tell you is, if it ever happens to you, is to go to the internet and go to Cisco and find the specific procedures for your device and follow it exactly step by step. And the one that we're going to use in our system here is 2142. Load the iOS from Flash and do not load the startup config file, which is where our password would be. A couple more things here. The configuration register values the bit numbers and what they do. 6 is the one that tells us to ignore the NVRAM contents. So that's what we're going to do. Password recovery, what we're going to do, and we have a little image up here where things load. ROM, we're going to perform post, and we're going to load the bootstrap. After that, we're going to load Flash. We can load the iOS from Flash or from a TFTP server. Locate and load the operating system, then NVRAM, TFTP server, or console. If we have a configuration file, by default, it's going to load. What we're going to do is tell it not to load. So that locate the configuration file, so we'll go into setup mode, and we've looked at that. So the password recovery steps, show version to see which configuration register is loaded. Record that, because that's the one that we're going to go back to. Boot the router and interrupt the boot sequence by performing a control key and a break key at the same time, which will take us into a ROM-MON mode. Change the configuration register to turn on bit 6 with the value 2142. Reload the router. We're going to say no when entering the setup mode, and then we're going to copy the running or startup config to the running config. When we do that, we're going to do our password reset, and don't forget that your interfaces are re-enabled. Change the password, reset the configuration register to the default value, normally 2102. Save the configuration register, reload the router. The thing that you really need to be sure that you do is to reset the configuration register. If we don't reload it, it's going to use the 2102, use the startup config file the next time we do that. So let me bring over a packet tracer and let's go through a demo of how to recover a password. Okay, what we have here is a 2811 router, and it just starts, it's fresh. You can see configuration dialog, no. So let's go in here into enable, and let's do config T and do an enable secret. We'll say a bunch of random characters, and then we will copy run start and then disable to get out of here. And then I don't have any idea what the password is. So what we need to do, and you'll be doing all of this connected to it via a console cable. So what we're going to do is let's go here to physical, and we'll turn it off and turn it back on, and then I will be on my command prompt. We'll do control break. I'm in ROM-MON down here, ROM-MON 1, and if we look at the commands that are available, they are few. So we're going to do a confreg what, 2142, right? There we go, 2142, because you got to spell the whole thing. Conf reg 0x. You can see there's no completion in this one, so we're going to then reset. So it is starting up, decompressing the image file, reloading the system here. Would I like to enter the configuration dialog? I'm going to say no, and then we can do enable, and we can show start, and we have our hash here for the system. So what we can now do is copy the startup configuration file to the running configuration file. Destination running config. Now if we show run, we have that password in it. So now we can go into config T and do an enable secret, and we'll use the secure secret. And now we can copy run start to the startup configuration file. And what we now need to do is to go back, big T, and config register 0 2102, I think 2102, and then let's do a reload. Configuration has been modified. Yes, we do. We'll proceed with a reload. Decompressing our image here so that we can now enable and type SECRET, and we have changed the password. So that's the procedure to recover the password if you need to in a Cisco device, and a Cisco router. Switch is a little bit different. You'll have to look them up. Verify using MD5. check it on the Cisco device. We can use the MD file validation feature to generate the checksum for the recovery image and compare it to the value that's posted in Cisco. MD5 hashes are really great things, but you have to check what you have and compare it against the posted MD5 hash to be sure that the two are the same, that it hasn't been corrupted in some way. File system, we've looked at it a little bit. The flash, the network file systems, TFTP, RCP, and FTP. RCP is remote copy. Endpoint, any other endpoint for reading or writing data, NVRAM, running configuration file, ROM, flash, load help. With the iOS file system, we can navigate to the different directories. As you could see, dir works, cd works also when we work through this thing. List of available file systems is going to vary by platform, and again down here the cd command works. Remote file systems, FTP, remote copy, TFTP can perform the view the contents of the file with the more execute command, copy files from the router using the copy exact command copy from the TFTP server, which is what we did with the iOS to upgrade it, and display information using the show file information exec command. So we looked at upgrades. We went through the step-by-step demo to upgrade an iOS. We talked about the configuration register. The configuration register is the thing that tells the system what to load and where to look for specific things. Look in Flash for the iOS, look in the NVRAM for the startup config file, skip the startup config file, whatever we're going to do. And then verify the iOS using an MD5 hash generator. And then our real brief file systems, we can use the dir command, the cd command to get around them. So with that, I'm going to stop with this one.